What up? T-Bob here.
And Jake as well.
And look at you. You done stumbled upon little OTB Saints, where we bring you all the latest black and gold coverage.
Who are the Saints going to draft? Who's going to be their quarterback? What does the salary cap look like? All that information and more.
Hope you enjoy it. Like, subscribe. Nick Underhill from neworleans.football. Nick, what's up, man?
The end of that game was almost like, have you guys ever seen the movie Tin Cup?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. That's actually perfect, dude.
Yeah, it's just like, damn it, we're gonna make this work. Like it was the same play, three out of four downs. Like
so
it was
bad.
just unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it. The players almost looked like they didn't know what to do on the play. You got Shaheed confused. You got Olave confused. It was almost like they drew the play up in the dirt and were just like run to the trash can, break at the light pole. Like it was crazy. It was just looked so disorganized, and the play calling there was truly unbelievable.
Are we reading too much into Derek Carr going in the sidelines and yelling at Pete Carmichael?
You know, you see that stuff all the time, and when things are bad, it takes on one life. When things are good, it's just like, oh, well, that stuff happens. People get emotional on the sidelines and stuff. You know, I kind of looked at it like Pete was yelling at Derek a little bit, but and you know, Derek shot back. But yeah, I don't know. You know, when things are bad and you aren't executing it all looks different, and everything takes on a different tone. So, you know, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, everybody should be frustrated. Pete Carmichael should be frustrated. Derek Carr should be frustrated. Everybody on the field should be frustrated. The tone in the locker room after the game it felt like being in a 1-5 locker room, not a 3-3 locker room. Like there is an urgency and a desperation right now because they all know they should be better. Like it took a while last year for it to kind of set in because I think that there was kind of a feeling in there like, all right, the starting quarterbacks are, there just isn't enough talent. It was kind of understandable why they weren't good. This team right now, if they stay on this pace, they are on pace to throw for 14 total touchdowns in 17 games. It is unbelievable.
God.
Like it is most anemic things you've ever seen. So I want to see people screaming at each other because they should be pissed off. It's horrible to watch. It's got to be even worse to be a part of. I want to see the emotion. So as long as it doesn't manifest into like something hideous or insidious, I think it's a good thing to see people yelling at each other.
So the red zone is just, I mean, because that's the weirdest part about this offense is, like, I think they're one of the best in the league at not going 3 and out. Like, they're not just an overall awful offense. They're pretty good at getting a little movement, getting close, but they are, I mean, horrendous. October, Halloween, scary bad when it comes to the red zone. And look, you got Mike Thomas out here saying, don't blame the coaches. This is on the players. But then I look up and, like, you know, Pete Carmichael has sucked for a while now. And what sucks for Dennis Allen is I don't care how much he's grown or what a better coach he is. It's impossible to shake that overall coaching record when you keep having these disappointing losses. So, like, who does the blame lie on for the red zone being such an abject disaster?
Well, I mean, one of the things you got to look at is you got a guy at quarterback who's had these issues now for you know a decade. He was good 20-20 with the Raiders, and at a certain point, you know, you got to say the zebra has stripes. And we're 6 games into the season, and it's just the same red zone issues over and over. You know, I think it's a little too simplistic just to blame one guy wholly for everything that's going on, but I don't think Derek Carr's been part of the solution there. I think he's been a little bit part of the problem. Like he locks onto a guy and doesn't necessarily see everything that's going on down in that area of the field. And you can go through, and there's people that he missed. And look, I guarantee you can do that with every single quarterback. You know, I'm sure Drew Brees had plays like that all the time too. It's just kind of, you know, part of the deal when something goes wrong, you're going to nitpick it. But excuse me, it's been an ongoing thing with him forever. So I think it's a huge issue. I think the play calling's been bad down there. There's been a couple games where it's looked good and creative, but you know, overall it's not working. But the thing that I would use to exonerate Pete Carmichael here is I would show that Jameis Winston was over 70% in that area of the field. Andy Dalton was over 70% in that area of the field. Derek Carr is not. And you know, there's a commonality, which is Carmichael through all that, and there's one guy that's the outlier here. At a certain point, you got to look at the outlier, and I just don't think that he's executed down there well enough. And you know, it's a massive issue. You can't win like this. Like it's just not. It's not sustainable. Like they got their head above water at 3-2, but you have to score. Like you can't have your offense be let's get to the 20, and then Blake Grupe has to score 21 points, and Tyrann Mathieu has to have a pick six. Like, that's just not a way to win football games. So it is the biggest issue facing this team. DA said yesterday he thinks they can grind it out. He had a year where his defense was bad in the red zone, and they found a way to grind it out. I'm a little, I'm not. I got to see it. I'm not confident in that ability right now. I think that's just the result of what we watch. It's just hard to believe in anything with this offense. But they got to find a way to get Mike Thomas involved down there. It's maddening that you aren't getting your best contested pass catcher the ball. Like, the Chargers, they recognize Keenan Allen can catch every contested ball. They throw him the ball 10 times a game. He's a red zone weapon. I don't understand how Mike Thomas has a 0 next to his name. Jimmy Graham, I don't think he has a ton to offer in the other 80 yards, but like those, or even the other 95 yards, but those last 5, like, why isn't he out there making plays? He made a contested catch for a touchdown there, but it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Some of the stuff they're doing down there, and I think it's some play calling, but it's Carr's a huge part of it.
Nick, the offensive line is horrid, and it would be bad no matter like how the player was acquired. But the fact that you've spent so many draft resources on this offensive line and they're still that bad, that makes it hurt even more. I mean, first-round picks all over the place, second-round picks. You've tried to do everything you can to shore it up. But even the players like Ryan Ramczyk, who, like T-Bob says, I mean, he was looking like he potentially could be a Hall of Famer the way he started his career. He's not playing well. Can you get it fixed? How do you get it fixed? And how are they this bad?
Yeah, it's kind of shocking too, and you would think that the coach has the pedigree. Doug Maroney, 2-time head coach, offensive line guy forever. But I mean, I go back and forth on him, and I think he did a lot to get Cesar Ruiz better and kind of where he needs to be. But like overall, the blocking as a whole the last 2 years, it just hasn't been as good. They don't even run block well anymore. Like the outside zone stuff, like that, it's just like guys are disorganized, and it isn't working the way it should be. There's not a lot of room to run the ball. And look, I'm sure part of that is like Alvin getting a little bit older, but when I look at him, like he doesn't look slow. It looks like he has good bursts, but he has nowhere to go.
Yeah.
And the holes aren't there. And I think that's a big issue. The player development is frankly incredibly disappointing. Like Trevor Penning being on the bench, I don't necessarily disagree with the move. I think he's had a lot of issues, but I think you also, the other side of that is benching him at this point in his career is kind of, it's a tough look for your drafting and development. And, I'm not closing the book on him. He'll probably end up starting Thursday night because you got injuries at both ends of the line, both tackles there. I doubt Ramczyk's going to be able to play with that concussion. So, and if Hurst plays still, I think Penning probably ends up on the field somehow. But, I mean, the fact that you're there is a very tough place to exist, and it's kind of across the board. I think McCoy's been a little bit better the last couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. Even him, though, he had a slow start to the season. I thought last year he had a little bit of a down year relative to the rest of his career. So, like, they aren't really ascending there. You got Cesar Ruiz, like, up to an average level, but everywhere else it seems like it's kind of slipped back a little bit. And, I think the fact that Pete wasn't in that starting group to start the season is kind of crazy to me, too. I don't understand that decision. I think he's probably your best guard on the whole team, and he's on the bench. And I don't understand that decision either. I thought James Hurst had issues early on. I thought Pete should have been in there, and it probably would have opened some things up. The fact that he can't stay healthy for, a week at a time, though, is a massive issue. So, I mean, I guess that's probably part of the calculation there to try to get some consistency. But it has been a mess through and through. And I don't know how it gets better. Like, honestly, I don't know how anything on offense gets better. Like, you're just looking at it, and it doesn't get better. And it hasn't really gotten better for 2 years now. So I don't know how it gets better with, them doing what they're doing right now.
New goal. Let's bump up the pace to 17 touchdowns. 1 touchdown a game. And then, I mean, look, on the road to improvement, you have to give yourself small, attainable goals to later get to larger ones. Who are the Saints talking about, Nick, when they're talking about somebody not putting in the work?
It's a good question. And I think there's a lot of people that you could probably look at. I mean, I think, some of the players probably, I mean, look, some of that messaging could be to coaches. Like, they aren't as creative as they used to be. Like, remember when they would play a team and there would be like 3 plays and we'd find out. And look, Pete Carmichael was part of putting this stuff together. There was one against the Bills. I want to say it was in I can't remember the year. It was like 16, maybe 17. Like it was 17, I think, 17 or 18. Anyhow, like they went through and they found a play from like 16 games before where there was a tackle over play and they figured out how the end defended the run and they brought it back and they used it 3 times in the game and there was like a 45-yard run on it and they installed that in the game and it was like, it was a huge talking point. It was like, Pete was like up in this room and he found like where is that stuff? Like where is that level? And I do think that just in general the Saints overall are probably struggling a little bit to find the same level of intensity and preparation since Sean Payton and Drew Brees left the building. I think just having those guys around puts everybody at a level that you just have to be at it. Like Drew's level of preparedness meant everybody on the team had to be at that level of preparedness. But like if they're sitting there week 6, yesterday Derek Carr, DA are up at the podium and they're talking about like preparation and getting on the same page and communication and you're more than 33% of the way into the season. Like I just don't think that you're necessarily where you need to be. That's kind of like a training camp talking point, not an in-season talking point. They're audibling plays and guys don't know what the audibles are and not everybody's communicating right. Like they had to call a timeout because they couldn't get the play out. At the end of that game, the timeout they took after they stopped the clock, they're in the huddle. They can't get the play out because they're in the huddle and not everybody knows what the call is and they're trying to explain it. I mean, this is stuff that just it can't be happening at this point in the season. So I think that messaging is probably for everybody. And, the guys that were around before, they're looking around, they're seeing this stuff happen. Like, they aren't used to it. And, I think it's a massive, massive issue that they got to figure out. I mean, it's crazy that you're talking about the stuff. And look, it comes down to player accountability, but like if your players aren't being accountable, your coaches have to find a way to make them accountable. And at a certain point, someone's got to go, someone's got to sit, someone's got to do something to let everybody else know that like, hey, when you show up on Wednesday, like that film better be watched, you better be prepared. And this is the direction we're going. And, just from the sounds of it, listen to what they're saying, it doesn't sound like they're anywhere near that point right now, from guy 1 to guy 53.
At least Carl Granderson's tight, right?
He looks great, man. Yeah, I mean that was a good decision to sign him too. Yeah.
At the end of the day, fellas, you got to be a pro, and we talked about that yesterday, T-Bob. And Alvin Kamara came out like you got to be a pro. Like you can't have things like Nick's talking about like that. That almost makes me mad. Like that's happening. Like you've got too many veteran players, Nick, for that to be happening. Certainly on that offense. Like so many guys in that huddle that should know exactly what's going on right there. Like you can't take that time out though. Like you need that timeout. Maybe you still had one, but maybe you used the middle of the football field and you don't run the same play 4 times if you have that timeout.
Let's not get crazy.
I can't believe they ended that series with a timeout too.
Did he think that if he threw between the hashes it was going to be a penalty? There's no rhyme or reason.
We're going to hear from Carmichael today. Like I'm eager to hear the explanation for it. I struggle to believe that he called that play 3 times. Like did it get changed? Like I just don't understand how you just keep trying to do the same exact thing over and over and over, and it just clearly wasn't going to work. And it was just so disorganized. Like going back to the previous point though, like it's crazy to see like Rashid Shaheed. He's supposed to be running a corner route, I think, and like he's looking over the
yeah.
Like I just don't know. Guys don't know where the ball's coming, what they're supposed to be doing. Olave stops his route. Carr's thrown to the back corner of the end zone. Like I just don't understand how it's this disorganized. And you're like, you know what? Let's run it again. You know what? Let's run it again. 3rd time's the charm. Like I don't understand it. I don't get it.
It's the old rock paper scissors logic. He's not going to go throw rock a 3rd time. But I guess he unfortunately
he did.
Yeah, he did. Hey, is it? You know what? I think it's time to play Jameis Winston again, boys. I'm about to break glass. Nick, what are you gonna get? What are you gonna get changed this week? So you got the team motioning more already. You got them to bench Trevor Penning. What is the goal for New Orleans football this week in terms of leading the Saints to changing something?
Yeah, I'm not going to take credit for any of that. That would be just coincidence. But look, they ran motion on 36% of their plays this week, and they worked pretty good. They got their touchdown on one of those plays. Ran for 2 first downs after motion. The thing they didn't do one motion play on third down. Third down was a mess. Like, just use it a little bit, on the most important down. Getting your receiver a running start on third down, it works.
Imagine that. Nick Underhill, neworleans.football is the site. Nick_Underhill on Twitter. Him, Brooke, Mike, the whole team does excellent work over there. Go check it all out. Sign up today. Wow, just amazing black and gold takes right there, Jake.
I don't think I've ever heard any takes that are better than the two guys that just gave you that take.
And you can keep getting them by going ahead and liking, subscribing, ringing the bell to get notifications when we post. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next OTB Saints.